Ever get the feeling like some books, some books just have this aura about them, like a real weight, a weight of secrets,
Mm.
Almost like they're humming with a kind of energy. Welcome to the deep dive. It's where we, crack open those volumes, those books that have both captivated people's imaginations, but also maybe sparked a little bit of fear. And today, we're going deep, deep into a true giant, a behemoth. We're talking about Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, specifically Volume 1, the one with that very, imposing subtitle, Cosmogenesis and the Voice of the Hidden Masters.
And imposing it is.
Yeah.
Think of this deep dive as your express ticket through this world, this landscape, really, of ancient thought. Blavatsky, she aimed high with The Secret Doctrine. She really wanted to, I guess you could say, weave together all these ancient wisdom traditions from, well, pretty much all over the globe. And our goal today is to, unearth those foundational ideas about cosmology, those ideas that she lays out in Volume 1, and hopefully offer you a bit of a shortcut to grasping those really core insights without needing to wade through every page of this massive, massive book.
Right. I mean, it's one of those books you see on the shelf and you're like, whoa, okay, maybe someday.
Yeah, a lifetime project for some folks.
Exactly. But what grabs you right away, what makes this book so immediately intriguing is this claim. Right out of the gate, Blavatsky says, this is based on prehistoric records. Most notably, this text, this enigmatic text called the Book of Dzyan.
Mysterious title, too.
Yeah, and this isn't just some, lost manuscript tucked away in some, dusty archive somewhere. Blavatsky is very clear. She says it's unknown to modern scholars, not found in any European library. It's like this almost mythical image,
Yeah.
knowledge passed down from these vanished civilizations, Atlantis, even the first human races. That's a bold statement, to say the least.
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah.
And it really colors how we're supposed to approach the whole work. Because the idea is that the knowledge here, it's not based on, the typical conventional history or archaeology, but something much, much older, a more maybe primordial understanding.
Yeah.
And so for you, dear listener, this deep dive is about extracting the essence of that claimed ancient wisdom. We're searching for those aha moments, those surprising links, those unexpected connections that maybe offer us a very different view of how the cosmos, how everything came to be.
Yeah, it's like a secret history of the universe.
Secret history, yeah, exactly.
Almost. Okay, so with a book this sprawling, this gigantic, where do we even begin? How do we even start to make sense of all of this?
Well, I think it makes sense to start at the source, or at least the alleged source, the mysterious Book of Dzyan.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I think we can trace some of those big foundational ideas about how everything began, concepts like this primordial substance, the mundane egg, these powerful forces and beings that are described. Okay, so tell me about this Book of Dzyan. What can you tell us about it?
Well, even the name itself, Dzyan, even that carries a certain weight, right? There's a footnote in the text that explains that Dan or Chan, those are terms, they're used in modern Chinese and Tibetan to talk about esoteric schools generally and their writings. And going even further back, the older term jhana, it's defined as reforming oneself by meditation and knowledge. So right away, the title itself, it suggests, a book of profound wisdom that can lead to transformation. It's not just stories, right? It's a guide to inner understanding.
So it's not just like an old book. It's a key. It's a key, yet it's a key to a certain type of, well, you could say spiritual and intellectual evolution. It's about unlocking something within yourself.
Exactly. And the claims about its age and influence are, they're pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, absolutely. Staggering. The Secret Doctrine claims this Book of Dzyan, it's incredibly ancient, right? And that it served as the foundational text for many, many other sacred writings that, we're maybe a little more familiar with. We're talking about things like the Hindu Puranas, the Egyptian books of Thoth Hermes, even the Chaldean Book of Numbers.
It's like old Archer text.
Yeah. And there are even hints that its influence maybe reaches as far as the Pentateuch.
Yep.
Now imagine that for a second. One source document that is supposedly, underpins so much of humanity's spiritual and philosophical heritage. That's a bold claim.
It's a huge claim, And the scope of this book is equally ambitious. It covers, everything. Cosmic evolution, origins of the earth, humanity, history of those early human races. And it all culminates, it sort of wraps up around the beginning of the Kali Yuga, which the text dates to, approximately 5,000 years ago.
Long time ago.
A long time ago. And there's also this mention of a second volume, a later volume, that is said to contain prophecies that are, related to our current age.
Right. So it's not just about the past, it's reaching into the future too.
Exactly. So we've got this continuous, unbroken thread of esoteric knowledge stretching all the way back to, to the dawn of our current cosmic cycle. That's the claim.
That's the claim, yes.
Yeah.
But Blavatsky, she also makes this very interesting point. She states that only certain parts, a select portion of this vast knowledge, it's actually permitted to be revealed at this time.
Oh, that's interesting. This idea of permitted knowledge, it adds this extra layer, this layer of intrigue to it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It almost suggests a deliberate withholding. Like, why only offer these fundamental truths? Why not more?
Well, the author explains, that the full, complete doctrine, it's guarded by profound secrecy. And it's partly because, it's so deep, so complex.
Yeah.
Partly because of, let's say, the limited understanding of humanity in our current age, in this era.
We're not ready for it.
Right, not ready for it. Exactly. And there's also this critique, a very strong critique, leveled at, how mainstream scholars, how they've interpreted ancient religions. Blavatsky's point is, essentially, they've focused on the wrong things, on the superficial stuff, the outward forms. They haven't grasped those deeper inner meanings. And because of this perceived failure to understand, that's why these more, profound truths, they need to be revealed. Now,
so they're not just, in their view, they're not just adding to the conversation, they're correcting it.
Correcting the record. They're offering what they believe is a more authentic understanding.
Interesting. Okay, so with this almost mythical Book of Dzyan as our foundation, our bedrock, how does the Secret Doctrine actually describe the very beginning, the very beginnings of everything? How does it all start?
Well, one of the first metaphors, and it's quite a poetic one, is the idea of the solitary ray. The solitary ray descending into the mother deep. So imagine this. This is divine thought, pure intelligence, if you will. And it's impregnating chaos, but not chaos in the way we think of it today, not like utter disarray, but chaos as this undifferentiated primordial substance.
Okay.
It's important to understand, too, that this event, it's happening on a metaphysical plane, in a realm where what we normally think of as abstract thoughts, intentions, that's the fundamental reality.
Okay, so divine thought meeting the formless void. It's a powerful image.
Oh, yeah. It really sets the stage. And this union then gives rise to the concept of the virgin egg, sometimes called the mundane egg.
Right, the virgin egg, the mundane egg. And this represents like the potential for everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's described as the abstract potentiality, the potential for all future development.
Yeah.
All development. It holds the promise and potency, those are the words used, of the entire universe. It's like if you imagine a tiny seed, containing the blueprint for a massive tree.
I see.
And that spherical form, that egg shape that's emphasized again and again, it's this universal symbol, the symbol of eternity, infinity. And it really connects with that Kabbalistic idea, the circle whose center is everywhere and circumference nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate container, the container for all that could be.
So it's not a literal egg.
No.
It's this symbol of pure potential, of untapped potential.
Exactly. And this potential, it also contains this idea of elements, right? The golden eggs surrounded by the 7 elements. Tell me about that. Right. So the text talks about this golden egg, and it's enveloped by seven primordial elements. Now, 4 of these are familiar to us, ether, fire, air, and water. But the other 3, they're described as being beyond our current perception, sensory perception. They're secret.
So they're like hidden elements.
Hidden elements, yeah. Now, the text, it actually references the Vishnu Purana, which interprets those elements as like successive envelopes of this cosmic substance. And there's also this mention of a 7th element, ahamkara, which roughly translated means the principle of egoity, or the sense of, I amness.
Okay, so we've got this cosmic egg, this golden egg. It's packed with potential. It's got these elements, these hidden elements. But how does this, inert potential, how does it actually become the vibrant universe, the dynamic universe that we experience? This is where we get to this force, this concept called fohat, right? This seems like a really important concept in this whole cosmology.
Oh, it is. Fohat is absolutely central, a key player, you could say. And some people, they compare it to Eros in early Greek cosmology, that primordial driving force, that energy, that impulse.
Okay.
But Fohat's role, it changes. It depends on whether we're talking about the unmanifested universe or the manifested cosmic world. You see, in the unmanifested state, before creation, before everything bursts forth, Fohat exists as this abstract potential creative power.
Yeah.
It's the inherent energy within that primordial substance, the latent dynamism that will eventually drive everything, drive the differentiation. It's like if you imagine an unplayed symphony. The symphony is there in potential within the instruments, but it hasn't been played yet.
Oh, I see. So it's the spark. It's the initial stirring, the thing that sets everything in motion.
More like, I would say, the inherent tendency towards motion and form. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And when the divine sun emerges from the unmanifest, and this represents the dawn of manifestation, that's when Fohat becomes this active force, an organizing force.
Yeah.
And it's the power that causes, the one to become two, to become three on a cosmic plane, of course. It's the start of differentiation into this multitude of forms that we see all around us.
So it's the catalyst for everything to unfold.
Exactly. And then it aggregates those elemental atoms. It draws them together, right? It starts building, constructing the building blocks of the universe. It's like, imagine the cosmic architect's toolkit, the intelligent energy that shapes and molds everything we see.
So it's not just some blind force, some chaotic force.
No. It's directed, intelligent, purposeful, you could even say.
Okay, and it's also deeply connected to this idea of one life, isn't it?
Absolutely. Fohat is intimately linked to that one life, the one life that emanates from the unknown one, from the ultimate, the infinite totality.
Yeah.
And this one life, it manifests in a way as the universal mind. And when we see this universal mind as kind of separate from its source during the process of creation, then it's called the demiurge, or the creative logos, which in some ways of thinking you could understand as the designing aspect of the divine.
Okay.
And interestingly, right at the same time as this universal mind is unfolding, the concealed wisdom of Adi Buddha, it's also said to manifest as Avalokiteshvara, who is equated with other figures in different traditions like Osiris, Ahura Mazda, the Logos.
Yeah.
So you see these parallels, these connections across different systems.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. And in this context, Fohat is described as the objectified thought of the gods, like almost, the word made flesh, but on this grand cosmic scale. It's the messenger of cosmic and human ideation.
So it's like the mechanism through which divine intention, divine thought becomes cosmic reality.
Precisely.
And there's also this more tangible aspect of Fohat, right? Something related to solar energy, to electricity even.
Yes.
Yeah.
In its secondary manifestation, Fohat is presented as solar energy. It's the vital electric fluid, that permeates all of nature, and it's the preserving forth principle, which is sometimes called the animal soul of nature. And that's equated with electricity. Wow. And the text, it even makes this quite bold assertion that electricity, it's a form of matter, albeit, at an atomic level, and several steps removed from what we perceive as ether. Now, this was a point of contention even back then, even in the late 19th century when the Secret Doctrine was written. And in some ways, it's still being debated in scientific circles today.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. It really is. And so this Fohat, this active force, it then goes on to generate these 7 Leia centers.
That's right.
What exactly are those? What are those 7 Leia centers?
Okay, so in its active role, right, Fohat gives rise to these 7 Leia centers. And you can think of these as like focal points within the manifested universe where the great law, and that's essentially the inherent cosmic order, it modifies its continuous motion. It changes its motion for the purposes of creation. And Leia itself is described as the 0 point, a state of absolute neutrality. It represents the underlying reality, the noumenon of that undifferentiated cosmic substance. So imagine these invisible still points within the universe, like the calm at the center of a storm, where
Yeah.
energy can shift, where new creations can emerge from the unmanifest, and they act as these neutral centers. They facilitate transformation.
Okay, so these Laya centers are like crucial nodes, like hubs
Hubs, yeah.
in this cosmic network where creation and transformation are particularly, potent, powerful. And then beyond Fohat, there's this whole hierarchy, of creative beings involved in all of this.
Oh, yes.
The Dhyani Chohans, tell me about them.
Okay, so the Secret Doctrine, it describes this really intricate, complex hierarchy, a hierarchy of creative powers known as the Dhyani Chohans. And they're organized into seven main groups within 12 greater orders. Each of those is linked to the zodiac and the 7 classical planets.
Yep.
And then those are further divided into, countless legions of divine beings, spiritual beings, semi-spiritual, ethereal beings.
It's a lot of beings.
It's a lot of beings. It's a populated universe.
Yeah.
And the highest level, the highest echelon, they're called the divine flames or the fiery lions, and they're associated with Leo, the sign of Leo, and the upper triad of the Sephiroth in Kabbalah. So think of these like archangels, maybe.
Yeah.
Or those higher order intelligences, that you find in other spiritual systems. Each one has its specific role, a role in guiding cosmic evolution.
So it's an incredibly vast and intricate cosmology.
It really is.
It is, and it's really interesting how it draws these parallels to other ancient systems, like the Japanese concept where spiritual beings predate, they come before cosmic creation. It really suggests, this underlying unity, in these ancient understandings.
Absolutely, and the text frequently points out these recurring patterns, these echoes across all these different cultures, different traditions, and offers that as evidence, as proof of a shared ancient archaic source of wisdom.
So it's like they're all tapping into the same source.
Yeah, the same fundamental understanding. And speaking of shared concepts, this idea of a mundane god, that also appears. It references the Chaldean oracles.
Oh, right. What's the connection there?
Okay, so the Chaldean oracles, they describe this mundane god as eternal, boundless, young and old, and this is interesting, of winding form.
Of winding form. Yeah.
Of winding form. And this winding form, it's interpreted as the vibratory motion, the motion inherent in the astral light, which is equated with that primordial undifferentiated substance. So I've talked about that.
Right.
And this astral light is referred to esoterically as lux. Lux meaning light. And it's said to be the very essence, the very substance of spirits. So physical light, the light we see, is just a denser reflection of it on our material plane. So this primordial substance, it's not passive. It's alive with energy, and it forms the very fabric of the spiritual world.
So this primordial substance is not just, inert stuff. It's alive. It's got this energy. And this then ties into this idea of the 7 principles, right? Not just for the cosmos, but also for us as individuals.
Yeah, it all connects. So one of the core esoteric teachings here is this concept of a septenary constitution. Which basically means, a 7-principled nature. And it applies to both the macrocosm, the universe, celestial bodies, and the microcosm, humanity. So these 7 principles, they're usually listed as, well, I'll try to say these: Atma, Buddhi, Manas, Kamarupa, Prana, Linga Sharira, and Stula Sharira.
Okay, yeah.
And they represent different levels of being, from the most spiritual all the way down to the purely physical. And this 7-fold structure, it's also reflected in the Earth's own journey. It's an evolutionary journey through these different rounds and globes, and each stage of planetary development, it manifests a different one of these principles. And according to this system, our Earth, right now, it's in its 4th stage of manifestation. So again, it's this idea of mirroring. Correspondence.
Mirroring between the large scale, the grand scale of the cosmos, and then the small scale, the intimate scale of us as individuals.
Exactly. It's a fractal universe. It's there in the big picture, and it's there within each of us.
It's a beautiful thought. And then there's this statement, this really surprising statement that nothing in the cosmos is actually inorganic, that even mineral dust, even dust contains a form of latent life.
It's true. It's a fundamental tenet. A tenet of the occult teaching presented here. And to support this view, they even quote the scientist, Tyndall, who observed that, quote, the very atoms seem instinct with the desire for life.
Wow.
And then they introduced this concept, the concept of fiery lives. And fiery lives are described as the seventh and highest subdivision, the subdivision of the plane of matter. And they correspond directly
Yeah.
to the one life of the universe on that same plane. And they're contrasted with the microbes that science knows about, the ones that are seen as the lowest subdivision of the second plane. The second plane, which is called, material prana or vital life force. And these fiery lives, they're said to play a role, an active role, in the constant building up and breaking down, of our physical bodies over these cycles, these 7-year cycles.
So even the seemingly inert, even the tiniest things, they're teeming with a form of life that we just don't fully grasp yet.
We can't see it yet. It's beyond our instruments.
Right, it's beyond our instruments. Okay, so the stanzas also mention fish, sin, and soma moon, and that's in connection with these life microbes. Now, the excerpt, it notes that the direct connection, it's not really explained in this particular section, but it does go into, the symbolism of the moon.
Yes. Now, while the specific link to life microbes isn't elaborated on, the text does explore, the rich symbolism. The symbolism attached to the moon in all these ancient cultures, all over the world. It mentions, for example, the Egyptian reverence for the cat, and points out this apparent connection, the connection between the phases of the cat's eye and the phases of the moon. How they seem to correlate.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and of course the goddess Isis, she's also very strongly associated with the moon in Egyptian mythology. And then there's the cynocephalus, that's the dog-headed ape. And it's presented as a hermetic symbol, a symbol representing Mercury, the planet Mercury.
Yeah.
But it's also sometimes linked to Isis and the moon as well. And the text really emphasizes this widespread prevalence, the prevalence of both solar and lunar worship of the sun and the moon across so many religious traditions.
Okay.
It's not just one or two cultures, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Including Hinduism. And quite interestingly, what it suggests are these veiled lunar aspects within Christianity, and even in the worship of Jehovah. And it draws this connection between sin and a Chaldean moon god.
So it's like this ancient deep connection, a connection between celestial bodies and life here on Earth, and our belief systems, and even our symbolic language.
Exactly. The heavens, they're reflected down here.
They are, yeah. And then there's the interpretation, this kind of provocative interpretation that's offered for the figure of the adversary, Satan. And this is not your, typical fire and brimstone depiction. It's something else, something different.
It is different, yeah. The text presents this perspective where the figure of Satan, it kind of evolves. It evolves from this more abstract concept, a more philosophical concept from earlier traditions. And it mentions Narada, who's a revered Brahmaputra and rishi in Hindu scriptures. And he's seen as this early kind of strife maker, a tester. And the great deceiver is identified as the anthropomorphized demiurge. But only when it's considered separately from the collective of divine creators.
Okay.
And the crucial point here is that in many traditions, those outside of mainstream Christianity, the figure that's often labeled as the devil, right?
Yeah.
He's actually seen as this necessary opposite aspect, the opposite aspect of the creator. And he is essential for balance, for cosmic balance.
Yeah.
They have this phrase, demon est deus inversus, which means the demon is the inverse of God. They're two sides of the same coin.
Two sides of the same coin. Okay, so it's less about a purely evil entity, and more about this principle of duality, the duality that underpins existence.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's not, good versus evil in this simplistic way. It's about the interplay, of opposites.
The interplay of opposites, yeah. And this also kind of circles back to this idea that ancient myths, they're not just, quaint little stories. They encode profound truths.
Exactly. The Secret Doctrine argues that ancient myths, they're not just, senseless fables. They embody deep religious and historical truths that have been passed down from our distant ancestors. And over time, over vast stretches of time, the understanding of of the highest, the singular one principle, it became obscured. It became kind of lost in translation. And this led to the transfer of its attributes
Yeah.
and functions
Yeah.
to the various created effects, the creative powers. So according to the text, this explains the pantheons of gods and goddesses that we find in so many mythologies. They're personifications of these cosmic forces.
So it's like a cosmic game, a game of telephone, you
Yeah.
know, where the original unified understanding it gets fragmented and it becomes
Yeah.
more anthropomorphic, more human-like.
More relatable.
Yeah, more relatable.
Because people, they needed something they could understand, they could grasp.
Exactly, as it's transmitted, as it's passed down through the generations. And then we get this glimpse into the Kabbalistic perspective.
Yeah.
With this introduction of Ein Sof, how does that fit into this whole cosmological picture?
Okay, so Ein Sof is introduced as the ultimate reality in Kabbalistic thought. It's the inscrutable, the incognizable, the unnameable. It's the causeless cause. It's that which underlies all of existence, everything. And it's described as this boundless circle, this boundless sphere, so vast, so transcendent, that it really lies beyond full human comprehension. We can't really grasp it. But interestingly, the text notes that the first recognizable connection, the connection between this completely abstract Ein Sof and the realm of human intelligence, is symbolized by a geometrical shape, by a circle.
A circle.
A circle, yeah. And it represents that ultimate unknowable source, that source from which all manifestation, all creation emanates.
So each of these traditions, these ancient traditions, in their own way, they're trying to articulate this same fundamental reality, this reality that's beyond our words, beyond our concepts.
They're trying to point at something that can't really be fully grasped.
Exactly. And then there's this brief mention, of these immense cycles of cosmic existence, the disappearance of the first, second, and third Earths over these unimaginable timescales. I mean, it really puts our current little moment in perspective, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It really does, yeah. So the commentary in the Secret Doctrine, it touches on these massive cycles, these colossal cosmic cycles. It mentions the disappearance of previous Earths, Earths that existed before our own. And these periods are measured in sidereal years, and each one of those is about approximately 25,868 of our solar years. So we're talking about millions upon millions of years. It's a time scale that completely dwarfs human history, and it just offers us a glimpse into this vastness, this immensity of cosmic time.
It's hard to even wrap your mind around.
It really is. It's humbling, almost.
Yeah, it is humbling. It really is. And then we encounter these figures, these intriguing figures known as the Kumaras, these virgin ascetics who for some reason they declined. They declined to participate in the creation of the material world.
Yeah, that's a good question. The Kumaras, they're presented as these very, very evolved beings, highly evolved, who, for reasons that aren't fully explained in this section of the text, they refuse to actively participate. They refuse to take part in the creation of material humanity. And the text draws this potential parallel, a parallel to the Archangel Michael, who's depicted in some Gnostic traditions as this virgin combatant, who also refused a role in creation. And there's this association, Michael's associated with Saturn, the planet Saturn, which links him to figures like Shiva and Rudra and other systems, and the Sabbath too. And each Kumara, each one bears this prefix Sanat or Sana, which connects them to the concept of old time. Think